Hello, everyone. This is Jacoby from Chisinau, just giving a little ministry update on the situation with Ukraine. I just wrote out a big long thing on Facebook, and it totally glitched on me and erased everything. So I don't want to write it all again. I'll just do it on video really quick. I wanted to keep this short, but I thought there's a lot of people that aren't filled in on what's been happening. So I will try to keep it short, but start from the beginning. So basically, weeks before the war started, I was in a group with other missionaries in Ukraine, and we were making preparations just in case. I personally didn't really think Russia was going to invade. Um, I thought it was just Biden hot air. I mean, I knew it was possible. We had emergency bags prepared. We had rails put on our car with a cargo box. We actually bought the car because of this situation, the 2011 RAV4. I had a hitch put on it. We had ordered a trailer, but that trailer wasn't going to arrive until the next day after the war started, and they were no longer able to deliver it. So I woke up at 5 a.m., hear an explosion in the distance, and got on my phone and quickly realized, okay, this is it. It's happening, and everybody started making decisions, and our decision had been to try to stay as long as possible. We didn't know what that would look like. We had to play each day by ear and analyze the situation each day and then make decisions. And we decided there's going to be a lot of people here in need. We should stay here and do everything we can to help people. That was our decision. But as we started reaching out to people, everybody we were thinking to try to get together and help was trying to leave. And my wife's brother had already been drafted into the military a few months earlier. Not really a trained fighter. He's in a military academy. He was in a part of the reserves that was never meant to go to war. He didn't even want to go in the army, but it was required by Ukraine. So he was there, and his mother and father don't want to leave with him there. So they're staying in Ukraine. They're actually watching our flat. There's been people going around marking flats, trying to steal stuff, which is super dark considering the situation. People are losing their homes, and people are looting their homes, their own people. And, and then even darker, some of these children or women are being trafficked. So in all of this, you have to be really careful who you trust and go through people that you know, if at all possible. But I digress on that point. So my wife's father was going to join the reserves as well. So my reasoning was, worst case scenario, if she were to lose her brother, who is more like a child to her. She had a big hand in raising him. He's a super good kid. This kid is really humble. He's a servant. He bends over backwards to help with music ministry. He's very musically talented. He can play several instruments. He's only 18 years old. He's newly engaged. His name's Lyuda. So if you could pray for him and pray for his safety, we would greatly appreciate that. And so I made the decision, because Lera couldn't, that we were going to leave in the morning and do what we could to help people from a position of safety. Like I said, worst case scenario, I wanted her to still have me, at least. And I considered fighting for Ukraine if they would give me U.S. citizenship. Now they've announced that they will give you, Ukrainian citizenship. Now they've announced that they will do that. But I have other friends, a good friend of ours, part of our church, one of my closer friends. He re-enlisted. He'd been in the army a couple years prior, and he re-enlisted with a very, nationalistic sense to protect his home. I have other friends that are still in other different parts of Ukraine who are driving people out, volunteering in various ways, help resistance, sewing equipment for the soldiers, building sandbags, and other things like that. Um, so we've been checking with everybody we can. Are you okay? Is there anything you need? People are contacting us. I drove a guy to the border to meet with his wife who had driven all night and was tired, couldn't drive anymore. I picked up a few people there, brought them back to the church to stay. People were sending us donations. We were able to buy 10 bunk beds, a bunch of juices and fruits for the child refugees. I bought a bunch of coffee and tea products because I was going to go to the Ukrainian embassy in Chisinau and just stand and talk to people, share the gospel, or find out how we might be able to help them. But I got sick. I had been going for 8 days with little sleep, and it caught up to me, and I got pretty sick. I was still able to run 1 or 2 errands a day or help people on the phone, but I needed to rest, take a lot of vitamins and medicine, and now I think I'm on the last day of full recovery. Tomorrow I hope to be at 100%, but I'm basically back in working order now. So so that was terrible timing because we felt such an urgency to help people, and then I got so sick that I had to stay in bed for a couple of days. But we're doing everything we can to help people with logistics. I just wrote 4 pastor friends I know today. Are you guys okay there? Because a lot of them sent their wife and daughters out of the country, and they stayed back helping refugees coming through from more eastern sections of Ukraine, heading out of the country, giving them a place to stay for the night, or ministering to their flock that are still there in Ukraine. Some of them posting videos every day to encourage people with a Christian perspective on the situation. So I reach out to them today. Is there anything you need? Is there anything your family needs where they're at? Can we help in any way? We've helped dozens of people with logistics getting out into Romania. We came out the morning that we decided to leave. 2 of our friends were at the train station trying to get out of the city and weren't able to. So we said, okay, come on, let's go. We put them in our car with us. So in a small RAV4, we had 4 people, an Australian Shepherd and a Jack Russell Terrier, and a whole bunch of luggage going through the border. And we sat in line for like 36 hours before we made it through. And then a friend of ours knew a pastor here who put us up in his parents' home. His parents are on vacation in Dubai, so we were very blessed to be able to stay here. And then there was another apartment they had. We were planning to rent out, but we were able to put a handicapped girl who was being transported to the United States out of Ukraine in there for one night. And then our friend Lyuda, who drove with us, helped her travel to the U.S. So she's in the U.S. right now because that girl couldn't travel on her own. She'll be returning soon. And then just a couple days ago, our friend Galia, who traveled with us, was asked by Samaritan's Purse to translate at the border. And they were meeting people's basic needs. And she told us that previously the lines were like 7,000 people a day, but now they'd reduced to like 700 people a day. So the line of refugees coming through has decreased dramatically. I see statistics about 2 million refugees. Ukraine has 44 million people. So that makes roughly between 41 and 42 million people that are still in Ukraine. So I imagine that some will keep coming as they're able, but a lot of the humanitarian corridors that Ukraine tried to negotiate with Russia, they basically renege on their deal and just shoot at civilians. And then they open corridors leading back to Russia. And God knows what they're going to do with them back then. They've been bombarding Mariupol very hard because it was close to Donbass and Lugansk. And Mariupol decided not to go with the separatists and side with Russia. I don't know why they're taking it out on Mariupol so hard, but I guess Russia's used this strategy in other places in the past, in Syria and others, where they just bombard civilians to demoralize people and break their spirits. But the Ukrainian nationalistic spirit is super strong. I watched a video, Lera watched a video and gave me the TLDR translation version because it was in Russian by a war expert analyst. He said Russia underestimated the enemy and made Siri thinks I'm talking to her and I'm not. Nothing, Siri. Nothing. Russia underestimated the enemy and made critical mistakes in the early days of the war, so they basically already lost it. And he said another sign of that is that they've changed the type of missiles that they're using, the strategic missiles, which is another indication that they're running out of the initial ones they had. But the concern is that these ones can have nuclear warheads put in them in the tips. So, and that sanctions, he says, this will carry on for 4 months at most. I don't know if he's right. I hope he's right that Russia's lost the war. I hope he's wrong on how long this could carry out. A lot of people think this could become like Afghanistan, a multi-month long or years long war with Ukrainian insurgency groups rising up. Some people think this could tip off into World War III. My thought is, if everyone thinks this is going to become World War III, or everyone thinks it's going to become like Afghanistan, it's probably not, because God likes to surprise people. I think Ukraine could win, actually, but it will be at a great cost. I'm praying for a miracle. I'm praying for the Russian soldiers to be confounded and confused, for them to be demoralized and to discouraged, for them to mutiny, for them to run out of supplies, for Putin to have a heart attack and die, for the Ukrainian soldiers to have clarity, focus, strategy, wit, and will to win, strong resolve. I saw one video by another war analyst who said Russia has greater resolve in this. I don't think so. They're on Ukraine's turf. Ukraine has been pushed down for hundreds of years, and they're not going to hand this over. Even if Putin manages to put in a puppet regime in Kiev like he did in Belarus or Georgia or Syria or Chechnya, there's no way that these people are going to stand down and just let it go on. So, and I guarantee you, I know thousands of Ukrainians that are not neo-Nazis. There's a small faction neo-Nazi group, but most of these people are just everyday people who want their freedom. Yes, the West is wicked. Yes, the West is corrupt. Yes, they don't understand that. They think it's just economic opportunity, progress, modernization. Yes, a lot of the Western world are idolaters, but I guarantee you Russia is idolater too. Putin is not some guy with conservative values. Read the Perestroika deception. Read Alexander Dugin. They want blood. They want victory at any cost. They're Machiavellian all the way. They'll tell any lie, commit any atrocity to win. They're probably frustrated. They're losing the global, the geopolitical battle. And I'm not on the side of the globalists. I'm just for the simple, everyday Ukrainian people, minus the oligarchs, the corruption, the money laundering. I know all of that takes place. I'm staunchly against it. I'm for that kingdom falling. I'm for Christian principles being instituted into Ukraine, and for hearts being turned towards Christ, and for Christ being placed on the throne in Ukraine and in Russia and over the United States and all the European Union. I believe that will happen in the long term. I'm a postmillennialist. I'm an eschatological optimist. I believe God's kingdom is growing, that things are getting better, not worse. But in the process of that, many people could lose their lives. We are okay with losing our lives. We are here to do our part, to preach the gospel, die and be forgotten, to do our small part in God's grand story while we're here. And we have great hope towards the future generations, and we're building for that. Like I've been saying, my vision is to plant trees, not seeds. I want to plant trees that grow deep roots and are continually producing fruit long after I'm gone. That's my heart. That's what I want to do. And that was my vision in Ukraine. And we were starting to build small businesses there. But right now that's all on pause, and maybe it will be blown into oblivion. Well, we'll brush that off, pick ourselves up, and go forward, and and see what God has for tomorrow. But anyway, like there's the documentary Winter on Fire about Ukraine, and that kind of shows more the leftist perspective, but also in that shows the grassroots perspective. It wasn't this whole Euromaidan thing. Yeah, George Soros was behind it, and the Ukrainian neocons manipulated to put who they wanted in power. The normal, everyday Ukrainians that were there building the ice barricades had nothing to do with right sector. They were just people. They're tired of the corruption, and they didn't want pro-Russia. They know what that means, and they don't want that. They're naive to what siding with the West means, but like I said, they're just looking for freedom and economic opportunity. So they don't care about the politics so much. They don't care about the religion so much, unfortunately. But pray that God will use all this to open many people's eyes. But anyway, my point was the Winter on Fire documentary came out after the Oliver Stone documentary, Ukraine on Fire, which is total Russian propaganda. I mean, come on. He's sitting there interviewing Putin and Yanukovych sympathetically. And of course, they had plenty of time to think up how they were going to spin what they were going to say. It's total garbage. There was interesting information in there, but when you leave out the Budapest Memorandum, you mention things like in Donbass and Lugansk, and you say stuff like, oh, they're primarily ethnic Russian. So what? They're in Ukraine. That's like, there's clearly defined borders with the Budapest Memorandum. The closest thing going back in history to where we can draw those borders. There was an agreement that was broken. So if that's like going to California, if there was a civil war broke out in California with Mexicans and pro-Americans, Mexicans that were pro-Mexico, and then a journalist went in there and said, hey, these are primarily ethnic Mexicans, so the Americans should back off. It's total nonsense. If they're pro-Russia, go to Russia, So if you think Russian propaganda isn't a real thing, these people are very sophisticated. Look into the perestroika deception and look at how Lenin taught people to deceive people. Look at Marxist revolutionary tactics. Their whole thing is deception. That's how they operate. Like Solzhenitsyn said, they lie, we know they're lying. They know that we know they're lying. We know that they know that we know they're lying, but they're still lying. They're blatant, bold-faced lies. The West tries to do it, in the past, I think more subtly, more lying where you can't detect that they're lying. But in recent years, it's just become all the more silly and clunky and obvious. More and more Orwellian. And praise God that many people's eyes are open to that. But if you think that, because the West tells propaganda that Russia must be righteous, they're real righteous because any dissenters get thrown in prison. Any dissenting journalists or oligarchs get either killed or thrown in prison for life and have their business confiscated. Oh, that sounds real conservative to me. That's not Christian. There's nothing about that that's Christian, not even close. All the false flag operations Putin has done, blackmailing politicians to get him a seat in the presidency, all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is like people that must have studied Putin for a few days, and they think, he's all right. He's with the Russian Orthodox Church. The Russian Orthodox Church is politically corrupt and apostate. So there's that. If you want, we can talk in depth on why they're apostate. So anyhow, what are we doing now? Like I said, Lera's helping out as a translator with Samaritan's Purse. She's most likely throughout the day taking small breaks to help people who are writing her, to help her figure out how to get places where they can go. We have a couple families at the church where we have 10 bunk beds and a couple cots and food for them. There's a kitchen there. There's washer and dryer, a shower there. And then potentially we have another building I showed in a video recently on the outskirts of the city where we can take people. But the refugees have slowed down, but they're here for when they're needed. And like I said, I'm reaching out to people in there, finding out what they need. And I also have a couple of friends in the military who've been writing me saying, hey, can you get me belt clips for soldier belts? Because they're sewing together Alice gear sets, like belts with that can hold gear for offloading, magazine clips and whatnot, helmets, Kevlar helmets, body armor 4+, and I also started writing various companies in Europe asking about armored vans to see if we can get one at discount or maybe even donate it in case we have to go on a rescue mission or humanitarian supply mission into there. So I'm awaiting an answer on that. We received very generous donations so far. We've only so far used about 25% of the money we received. We don't know how long this will drag out, so we're trying to be careful with that. We helped one person pay for, a couple people pay for train rides and other things. So as more refugees come, there will be greater need, or we can send aid inside. We're just trying to allocate that carefully. And then, so there's still a need for more money because, like I said, we're trying to get body armor, which isn't going to be cheap. I have a friend actually in Washington in the States. He told me he can get the body armor, the level 4 body armor. So now we're talking about how quantity, shipping, and price. But if you have any connections where you can help us get this type of equipment, metal belt clips, level 4+ body armor, Kevlar helmets, Alice gear sets, and anything else that might be helpful if you'd like to donate so we can buy an armored van so that we can bring stuff into Ukraine. We'd greatly appreciate that. If you have any connections that would help with any of this in any way, please reach out to us. So, like I said, the refugees slowed down. We're still helping them, but we've shifted our focus to trying to help get stuff to people inside or finding out, like some pastors have family in other parts of Europe. We're trying to see if they need anything too. So we'll continue to keep you updated. Thanks for your love. Thanks for your support. Thanks for your prayers. Yes. Thank you very much. And please keep praying for Ukraine. Pray for swift resolution. Pray for cities like Mariupol, Sumy, Chernihiv, Ernograd, I think it's called. And some of these cities are just getting bombarded so hard. They have no heat and they have no water. And they're bombing civilian buildings. And it's just, I guess they put a new mayor in place in Chernihiv because the old one bailed out or something. I don't remember the details, but the next day the new mayor committed suicide because he didn't want to deal with this occupation situation. So pray for them. I have a missionary friend in the Poland border, and they're trying to bring stuff into Chernihiv, which is north of Kyiv, and evac people out of there if at all possible, but it's very, very hard because of all the shooting and stuff. So, and then a lot of people kind of stuck in Kyiv as well. A lot of people have chosen to stay, so that's why we need this to end. We need this to end. A lot of them are Christian people. Pray for the salvation of souls. Pray for genuine conversions. That in this darkness, their eyes will be open to the light of Jesus Christ. Thank you very much. Bye.